the set of people that were most to blame for the loss was them. So they're never going to figure it out. They're like, was it outside there, over there? No, in here. Look inside the TV box. That's where the blame is. You've got to keep correcting yourself so you get better and better at this. And I want you to do it in the audience. That's why we do the predictions, or in this rare case, the lack of a prediction, because I want you guys learning with us, right? Oh, we got that right. We got that wrong. And think it through for yourself, and always think, okay, what if the shoe's on the other foot? Well, to become a member and members support our show, they're basically our boss. And I love that they allow us to do this kind of honest programming, which is exactly what I'm going to do here.
Cenk Uygur humiliates himself on live stream. Cenk Uygur just can't admit when he was wrong. In a live stream, he tells his audience that he will admit what he was wrong about in the election, then proceeds to do everything but that. Cenk tries and utterly fails at trying to set an example for his lefty colleagues, in an instance that one can only describe as utter buffoonery. How does anybody listen to this dude? Let's see what Cenk Uygur has to say.
We should do introspection after this loss, the Democrats say all over TV. And do they actually do introspection? No. They never say, oh, here's what I got wrong. They say, here's what they got wrong, and they got wrong, and they got, okay, brother, we can do that, and I do that too. But at some points, you got to look at, yeah, but did I get it right? And where did I go wrong? Otherwise, it's not really introspection. So I'm going to do all of that right now. You guys know shows live Monday through Friday, starts at 6 o'clock Eastern, goes to 8 o'clock Eastern, and then a bonus episode for the members. Hit the join button below to become a member, and members support our show. They're basically our boss. And I love that they allow us to do this kind of honest programming, which is exactly what I'm going to do here, and put the blame in the places where it belongs, including on me. Okay. First, though, I'm going to ironically start with what I'm going to take credit for, and it's doubly ironic. It's ironic that I'm taking credit in the middle of a video where I emphasize what I got wrong. It's also ironic because I'm taking credit for not knowing. It could be potentially triply ironic because you can count it as actually being wrong, and nevertheless, I'm taking credit for it. So what is it, and why am I doing all that fun stuff? So no matter how much pressure there was from both sides, and there was overwhelming pressure, the MAGA screaming online, social media, we're obviously going to win, you're crazy if you don't think we're going to win. And Blue MAGA by the end going, oh, it's such an easy win, you're all crazy if you don't think it's an easy win, and we got a landslide coming. And did you see that poll from Iowa, right? And through all of it, I stuck with a thing that I almost never say, which is, I don't know. There's not enough information. I don't know. And I'm actually super proud of that. I know it's an ironic thing to be proud of. But guys, resisting that pressure, especially from your own side, and admitting fallibility and saying, I just don't know. If I knew, I'd share it with you guys. I think a tiny bit of a credit sticker on that one, right? Now, could I have been more right? Of course. I could have said that Trump was going to win, and I know it for sure. And some people did say that, and it turns out, by the way, they were right. I don't know that the for sure was right, but the correct part was definitely right? They got it right, and you should give them credit. In fact, that's the thing I'm going to return to for what I'm wrong about in a little bit, okay? So to all of you guys out there in Trump land, or even if you weren't, even more impressive, if you weren't in Trump land and thought that Trump was going to win, congrats, you got it right. Okay, so for the moment being, though, I'll take whatever solace I can find. And I find, as you can tell, significant solace in that I didn't give into pressure from both sides to declare something I didn't know. And so that's how I landed on it. And I'll call that a semi-win and move on. If you say, no, Cenk, that's just the loss, you should have known better. Okay, God bless your heart. No problem with that analysis as well. So, and I am actually kind of mad at myself because I told you guys my intuition's leaning Trump. I told you like 2 Sundays before the election, I had that feeling of doom, etc. But at the end of the day, the Democrats at the end, had this bedeviling confidence. and to be fair, a whole bunch of poll results that turned out to be obviously incorrect, but that indicated that Kamala Harris had the momentum and was winning undecided voters. That brought me back to an I don't know, right? It brought me back to a tie. And so, but I should have known that I should have dismissed it more. right? So, okay, so that's that. Let's be, we're clear enough on that. Now, the people on TV are cracking me up as usual. So, the person they're blaming the least for the loss is Kamala Harris. Of course. Wait a minute. She's the one who lost. How can she have the least amount of blame? And the reason is because they don't want to offend her. They know her and they feel bad for her. And I get that human impulse, right? You're like, that's not coming from a bad place. That's coming from a good place. And she's already devastated. You don't want to rub it in. But guys, we're not her nanny. We're supposed to be journalists and be honest with people, not be worried about the feelings of the powerful. Does Kamala Harris have blame for losing this election? You guys all want to say it together? 3, 2, 1. Of course she does. She was the candidate. Be ironically fair to Kamala Harris, she was just a normal establishment Democrat. Every establishment Democrat would have lost in the same way. That's my, not just my guess on that one. I'm very, very strong on. I mean, if you think Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom would have been your savior, no, they have the same exact problem Kamala Harris has. The lack of authenticity, the serving of the donors, et cetera, et cetera. And it's an assembly line of corporate politician robots. Anyone in the assembly line would have lost, but as it was Kamala Harris, and she's the one.
While that is true, Gavin Newsom can at least give interviews and debate and speak in public without sounding like a moron. I don't like Gavin Newsom. I do not like that guy. He's the governor of our once great state of California, and it's been a complete disaster for the state. But Gavin Newsom is at least a good politician, and that's not a compliment. I mean, he's a good politician that he knows how to come out and BS everybody. He knows how to answer questions. He knows how to avoid answering certain questions. He knows how to do all that stuff. So I'm not saying if Gavin Newsom would have been the replacement of Kamala, that it would have been a landslide victory for him or anything like that. But I think he would have had a better chance. What do you guys think? Sound off in the comments below. Subscribe if you like content like this. Let's continue.
Who lost? That's okay. I mean, that's bare minimum in honesty in dealing with this. First of all, old Christian Peterson, welcome to the Young Turks, brother. Okay, so welcome to meeting my boss. And you guys told me to be honest with you. I was. We said Biden was too old. We said they should have had a convention. We said we don't know if Trump or Harris is going to win. And you guys encouraged that instead of going, oh, no, I just want blue MAGA. Please tell me that they're up by 400 points. Well, we didn't. And you guys stuck around for it. And you guys became members because of it. And we appreciate you guys, because otherwise we can't do the honest show. Nobody does an honest show. Then everybody does the blue MAGA, red MAGA shows where everybody's just doing propaganda. The fact that these members here, hit the join button below if you want, or tyt.com/2024. If you go through tyt.com, it's actually 20% off for monthly membership. But anyway, but the reason, the fact that you guys keep an honest show afloat and push it forward, I think it makes all the difference. Obviously I couldn't be more biased on that, but thank you guys for allowing us to do that. Okay, so for the guys on TV, so they're not blaming Kamala Harris to protect her fans. Okay, whatever. Like it's comical, but the more important part is they just don't get it. They're trying to figure out, well, who do we blame? Do we blame the black voters or the Latino voters? We were planning to blame the black voters, but they came in actually a little bit strong. They still came in at 80%, but we lost Latino men. Let's go blame them. And I've seen white women getting blamed and Christians getting blamed. And this, first of all, what are you doing blaming Christians? Are you crazy? Or white women or Latino men? Are you trying to lose the next election? And don't pretend you're neutral. How could everybody on TV be neutral and also be devastated at the same time? If you're neutral, why were you devastated by Donald Trump's victory? They're not even trying to make it make sense, right? So, and the number one reason that they can't get it right is because the set of people that were most to blame for the loss was them. So they're never going to figure it out. They're like, was it outside there, over there? No, in here. Look inside the TV box. That's where the blame is. I'll give you a little bit more details on that in a second. Nigel Huntley, I appreciate your super chat, brother. Now, both sides are not going to be great on Gaza. We'll save that for another day, okay? So what I mean by the people on TV isn't just those particular pundits. It's the establishment frame of mind. So they don't think to blame establishment politicians. They don't think to blame the structure of the Democratic Party, because they love that structure. They believe in that structure. And to them, that's a sacred ground. It's unthinkable to rethink the core strategy of the Democratic Party. In fact, they don't even know they know it in their bones. They know it subconsciously. They know it through groupthink. But if you ask them what is the core strategy of the Democratic Party, no one on television would get it right. The core strategy of the Democratic Party is collect as much donor money as possible, use that to win elections, mainly serve the donors, and of course, almost by definition, not the voters, but just serve the voters just enough to trick them into voting for you again and again and again while you're serving the donors 90%. Now, is anybody on television going to be that honest? Of course not, because they are the corporate interests. They are the establishment. It's like asking the fish, how's the water? He says, well, water. And so all over television now, whenever I see any clips, I'm hearing like a giant echo of what water, what water, what water. No, brothers and sisters, that's the water you created. You're stewing in now, and you have no idea. You have no idea. You did it. The establishment. That's what people hate. So look, guys, there's 3 groups of voters here overall. Do this real quick, and then I come back to the main point.
It's always so funny to me how Cenk pretends that they're not part of the media. Yeah, they might not be mainstream media. They might not be quote unquote corporate media, even though didn't they take money from like Al Jazeera or whatever? But they act like they're not part of this lefty Democrat media push that's also pushing propaganda. They act like they're not part of it. Cenk, you're one of these people. You are part of the machine, dude. Yeah, you might not be this huge mainstream media, but you're still part of the whole overall lefty Democrat machine that helps to push the propaganda.
So one group of voters is MAGA, they're immovable. Then there's blue MAGA, they're immovable, right? And then you think, but if MAGA won, if when Biden won, that means, oh no, don't worry about it, guys. The whole country's blue MAGA. Yeah, we're gonna have that 33% or so that's red MAGA, but we've won. I said, but brother, you won by 43,000 votes. Obviously, you're not the whole country. It's deluded to think that, right? But MAGA's making that same mistake right now. They won, and they won by we think it's a blowout because Trump won by a couple of percentage points in the swing states. That's not the whole country. Okay. So hey, it's wow, you won a popular vote. That's unbelievable. You might have 52% of the country. That means you don't have the other 48. And the other is not just blue MAGA. The reality is they don't even have the 52 MAGA because they have their core MAGA, and then they have a bunch of people that voted for them that are actually part of the middle. Some of the middle voted for the Democrats, some of the middle voted for the Republicans. And the middle is not necessarily middle of the left-right spectrum, but the middle says, I don't like crime. I don't like out of control immigration. They're very, for lack of a better word, moderate voters, right? They more common sense, etc. They're not prone to the extremes of MAGA land. They're not prone to the extremes of the left at all, right? I don't think they're prone to either extreme. So those are the middle voters, not moderate in Washington speak, which is Manchin is so moderate because he gave corporations everything they wanted. No, that's a mirage. But the actual moderates of the country, the common sense voters, those are the ones you have to win over. But if you don't realize they're not you're at a massive disadvantage in trying to win them over, because the elites think, those guys in the middle, they're us. They love the establishment. They love the elites, and same thing. They don't even realize that they're the elites, right? And the MAGA guys think, oh, no, yeah, now they're all us, and they want us to kick the libs' ass and stuff like that. No, they just want you to be normal, okay, and deliver for them.
Wow, I didn't know that 52% didn't mean 100% in the country. I'm glad we have Cenk Uygur here to set us straight and let us know that 52% doesn't mean 100%. And I like how even in this victory for us, he still can't give credit where it's due, and he has to still try to quantify it and say you've gained a lot of the middle of the road people that just want common sense laws and such and such. Yeah, that's what we all want here in MAGA. That's what we've all been wanting this whole time. Cenk Uygur still thinks that MAGA is like extremists. No, dude. We've been wanting common sense this whole time. And now it just turns out more people want common sense because things have gotten worse under Joe Biden's presidency. And they want things to go back to the way it was before, which is what MAGA has wanted this whole time. That is why we've been supporting Donald Trump. That is why we wanted Trump to become president once again. That is why I voted for him 3 times. Because I just want common sense back. And people who are in the middle who voted for Donald Trump this time realized that, hey, MAGA isn't about extremism. It's just about common sense. And that's something that Cenk Uygur doesn't understand, because to him, Donald Trump, MAGA, all extremists. But what do you guys think about that? Sound off the comments below. Give the video a like if you like this. Let's continue.
Of donors or MAGA land or extreme left land. I think this stuff's kind of obvious, but you don't see it that much in the rest of the press, and you don't see it on television at all. They're having a completely different fictional conversation about what went wrong. Okay, they don't even understand the framing of the conversation. They start with the conversation with which ethnic group is to blame. Brother, you're not even close to the right playing field, let alone the needless answer to that question, which leads you astray. So sorry, guys. I normally call out the members and the super chats. I'll try to do that more as we go, especially in the live videos. And we appreciate you guys. During the live show, we have a full-blown conversation with the members during the commercial breaks, because you only get some folks on YouTube only get a little bit of commercials, and mainly we do a social break where we interact with the audience. So another good reason to check out the show live when 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. All right, let's get to the last couple of parts here, including the part where I finally tell you what I did wrong.
So we're 12 minutes and 27 seconds into this video, and the video's total 19 minutes and 42 seconds, which means there's about 6-7 minutes left in this video. So in a 19-minute video, he's going to explain what he did wrong in 6 or 7 minutes or less, because he's not even going to probably use all that time to explain what he did wrong. Wow. Some introspection there, Cenk. Way to be an example for all your left-leaning Democrat friends and associates out there.
Or what I got wrong in a correction. So before that, one last thing. So one of our sponsors is Polymarket, and so they got a lot of heat, right? And including by some people in our audience, like, oh, they're trying to rig the election in favor of Donald Trump. That's why so many people are betting for Trump, and they're going to say that after Trump loses, because obviously he's going to lose, because every member of the establishment I know is voting against him. So they must be lying. It must not be true. And nobody's really betting that way. It's a trick. After we win, which is obvious, then they'll pretend that it was stolen because the Polymarket markets. So it turns out conspiracy theories aren't just for the right. Did that turn out to be true? I ask the right-wingers all the time. You had a conspiracy theory about the election, for example, that the Democrats were obviously going to steal it. Well, did they? It was already pre-rigged, gone. Not only did they did not quote unquote steal it, they got shellacked. And not only did they lose the presidency and all of the swing states and the popular vote, they got shellacked in the Senate and lost the Senate very badly. So obviously they weren't trying to rig it. Obviously. All the total lunatic conspiracy theories about how the 2020 election were stolen are all wrong. Get out of your bubble. Get out of your bubble. Your bubbles are wrong, okay?
It's still possible that 2020, there were shenanigans in the 2020 election, but there weren't really that much here. The country is in a different place than it was in 2024 than it was in 2020. 2020, you had COVID, and everyone was sick of it, and everyone was indoors, and people wanted change. And the Democrats, they went ahead, they changed a lot of the rules, which made it easier to where if these people who were sick of this stuff, who were sick of Donald Trump and all that stuff, if they wanted to go ahead and pull some shenanigans, they could, because the rules had been relaxed a little bit. Now, clearly, as I pointed out earlier, we're in the majority here. And clearly, more people are sick of the way things are now than they were back then. And also, too, they don't own as much social media real estate anymore. You know, now that Elon Musk owns X, formerly Twitter, that was a big piece of social media, like digital real estate, that they used as a tool that they can't use anymore. We're just in a different place. And also, too, now that there was attention brought in the last election, you better believe there are going to be a lot more eyes this time around. And there were, as things were going on, there were a lot more eyes on the ground. You had Steven Crowder with eyes on the ground. You had other organizations who had eyes on the ground. People being more vigilant about capturing any suspicious activity they might see. this would have been much more harder to pulling off some shenanigans in this election would have been much more difficult. And if you had the majority voting for Donald Trump and then it was announced that Kamala Harris had won, you better believe there would have been more people pissed off this time around and more suspicious this time around. And there would have been a bigger revolt this time around than there were in 2020. And that's why I think it is still possible that there were shenanigans in 2020, but not as much shenanigans in this time around, at least not to sway the election one way or the other.
But that now Blue MAGA's in that bubble. And they're like, oh no, people betting that Trump will win is obviously fraudulent. And it's part of a conspiracy and stuff. No, they just thought Trump was going to win. And it turns out they were right. And so they all made a lot of money. Oops. That's what happened. Okay, so the poly markets, if you're being accurate, I'm not saying this because they're a sponsor. I'm saying it despite the fact that they're a sponsor. I have to be honest with you that they were right. Right? I'm not trying to sell them. I'm being as frank as I can about what happened. Between the polls and the markets, this time around, the markets were more correct. And so that doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. No. We'll track it as we go along, right? How did the markets do in this election? How did the polls do, et cetera? But there was a conspiracy theory that Polymarket was rigging it, and they weren't rigging it at all. A whole bunch of people, as far as I can see from the outside, came in and voted Trump because they thought they were going to win money, and they were right. So problem solved. So now left, we asked the right wing to get rid of their conspiracy theories when they are proven wrong. You must do likewise. Otherwise, you lose credibility. Okay. So by the way, they were also those markets. I saw them going back and forth in exactly the way that I would predict. And by the way, people got singled out poly market, but all the markets were within a 1 to 4 point range. So nobody was doing anything that was different than any of the other markets. I saw at the end, for example, a couple of days before the election, I believe he was in the 60s, like 63% or something like that. I thought that was too high because I still had it closer to 50-50. But obviously we know how it turned out. And but they dipped as well in the same time that I became unsure in the last couple of days because of all those positive polls for Kamala Harris. Trump dipped to about 55% or so before the election, right? But they still had him as the favorites. And it's because it's not they're markets. It's not one person behind a green curtain pulling the levers, right? The reason why Trump dips at the end is because more people come in and bet on Kamala Harris because they think they're getting good odds and Kamala Harris has a better chance of winning. Again, they turned out to be wrong, but that's why the markets move like that. So it's polymarket.com. You guys check it out if you want, but you don't believe it if you don't want. But what happened is reality, and there's no arguing with that. And then, so finally we get to then, so that's what some of the left wing got wrong, etc. So what did I get wrong?
16 minutes and 31 seconds into this video, and we're finally going to get to what Cenk Uygur got wrong with about a little over 3 minutes left on the clock. Holy cow, Cenk. What is going on with you? You are such a buffoon. But enough of this. Let's just get to it.
Like I said earlier, I'm proud that I was at a don't know on the actual results. Also in the Senate and the House, I was like, I have no idea, right? But I remember doing a video for you guys near the end, maybe even 2, where we were talking about the polls. And I told you what was more reputable and what was less reputable among the polls. And there was 2 that I was very dismissive of every time we talked about it. It was Atlas Intel and Trafalgar Group. And as it turns out, they were more accurate than the other polls, not less accurate. Okay, so my bad. Shout out to Atlas and Trafalgar for getting it right. Okay, so this is what we should all do. Instead of being ego-driven and trying to protect our own theory of the case, blame everyone else, do actual introspection. Yes, but what did you definitively get wrong? And in this case, I thought that those were polling groups that were leaning right and that they were seeing it wrong. And you know what? I might have gone a little bit borderline conspiratorial about, hey, maybe they just want some polls out there showing Trump winning because they think that that's helpful to them in the election. Well, they weren't. They were polling it more accurately than the ones that are considered more credible historically, right? So, and by the way, this happened with, I think, Data for Progress, a progressive polling organization, a couple of elections ago. They were dismissed by mainstream media as, oh, that's just a progressive outlet doing the polling. And at the end of the election, they looked and they were the most accurate, right? So, but when you make a mistake, you've got to correct it, both on air, so you guys know, hey, next time you see those polls, it turns out they're way more credible than we realize, and I don't want you to have the wrong impression about it. But even more importantly, you've got to keep correcting yourself so you get better and better at this. And I want you to do it in the audience. That's why we do the predictions, or in this rare case, the lack of a prediction, because I want you guys learning with us, right? Oh, we got that right. We got that wrong. And think it through for yourself, and always think, okay, what if the shoe's on the other foot? Let me look at it from a different perspective. So we all get better at predicting this stuff and understanding politics better together, so we're not tricked by mainstream media, right-wing media, or any other kind of media, or any other kind of politicians. I love doing this show with you guys. I feel honored.
What a freaking buffoon this dude is. Unky Chunky, you are a moron. So this whole video, all of it, just to say, yeah, the only thing that I got wrong is I just dismissed these polls. Wow, that's the only thing that you got wrong, Cenk? That's the only thing? Wow. Dude, this dude must be a super smart and bright guy. He only got that wrong. How about you get January 6th wrong? And the fact that you think Donald Trump is this insurrectionist, you think that he is pretty much a fascist, all of these things, how about that being wrong? Because clearly 52% of the country disagree with you on that. Because if majority of this country thinks that Donald Trump is these things, they wouldn't have voted for him regardless of how bad the economy is. Because, hey, it's better to have a bad economy than fascist Donald Trump, right? Insurrectionist Donald Trump. Convicted felon Donald Trump, right? So if 52% of this country was willing to vote for evil German man 2.0, Donald Trump, in this election, Cenk, maybe he's not all these things? And maybe you believing all these things may have skewed your opinion just a little bit? By the way, too, Cenk's not being completely honest here. I remember I did a video on this. They did an interview with Charlie Kirk when they were talking about the issues a few months ago. And Charlie Kirk asked Cenk straight up, like, how do you feel about Kamala Harris being pretty much installed and they didn't really have a primary to elect Kamala Harris? And Cenk was like, well, yeah, a little bit it bothered me. But, I was like, well, as long as she gets the donors, then, I'm fine with it. And she got the donors. And so there you go. Oh, okay. Now he's coming on here saying Kamala was a horrible choice, that he called it the whole time. No, clearly he didn't. I've said this before. The Young Turks have called out the left here and there, but overall, they still carried the water. They still try to help Kamala Harris across the finish line. The reason why Cenk Uygur is so large is because he is so full of crap. And now he wants to try to play it off like, oh yeah, I knew the whole time. Listen, I knew the whole time. I knew everything. You guys could learn from me. Yeah, I got a little bit wrong. I listened to the wrong polls. But you know what? You could learn a lot from Cenk freaking Uygur, your Uncle Unky Chunky. You could learn a lot from me. I can admit my mistakes. Why can't you? No, Cenk, how about you? Listen, I know it's hard for you to do some introspection because it's hard to deep down all those layers of ice cream and donuts that you got inside you. So I know it's difficult. But do try a little bit harder at this introspection, please. Do you guys think he's even capable of this? Honestly. Do you guys think that Unky Chunky over here is capable of looking inside himself and really doing a true introspection? Or do you guys think he's a buffoon? Sound off in the comments below. And if you guys like seeing delusional Cenk Uygur make a fool out of himself, I got a whole playlist for you on the left-hand corner on the screen.